And good evening, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the 8 o'clock spot live here on the Gryd Network's YouTube channel and Twitter account. As always, I am Bryson Carver, your judge slash host slash moderator of this show. It's a new year. It's 2024. Very excited to be in the building with a lot of football talk, college and NFL. We've got three outstanding contestants and one newcomer. Before we get to him, Devin Nettles, also known as Mr. Runner-Up, looking to be a champion once again in the 8 o'clock spot. He's a very happy Ravens fan today. Devin, my friend, how are you doing?
I'm so great, Bryson, man. I just know that you should feel the greatness should come your way a little bit, because I tried to tell y'all every week, and we was on this show, that my Ravens was the most dangerous team out here. And a lot of people chuckled. A lot of people just kept saying, no, it's not it. No, Devin, you can't big trust me and blah, blah, blah. But it seemed like after that one, Bryce, that was like the last time we lost. So close. That was almost close. You know, it was the Browns when the last time we lost, but that was only a week after we lost to y'all. So, my, has these black and purple look real good.
Your day's coming, Devin. Your day is coming. I'm telling you. You just wait. You just wait. We've got a newcomer to the Gryd Network. Gryd Network contributor Tim Barnard. He's a big-time Boston guy. I see you got your Patriots shirt. I knew you were coming on the show today, so I had to wear my Red Sox hoodie to come out and support. I know Guido probably isn't too favorable of that. We'll get to Mike in just a second. But Tim, welcome to the Gryd Network, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, listen, I know my Pats aren't pursuing a championship this season, but that doesn't mean I've had a great 20-plus years of championships, especially when they came at the expense of Baltimore. Just saying. There were some good matchups. There were some good matchups.
Shots.
But since we are here,
I got to make a statement on my first day.
I love it.
Talking about championships. When the last time y'all won a championship?
When was the last time you won a championship?
I was about to say, Devin.
I won 3 after you, so just saying.
At the Tom Brady left, how many of y'all won?
We can do this another day. We can get to this Ravens Patriots history some other day. I'll tell you, you know, the Patriots have won more recently, and the Ravens have won more recently, and the Red Sox have won more recently than the New York Yankees. It feels like it's been a million years. Mike Guido, how you doing?
Why, man? Hold on, wait. Wow. Bryson, that's uncalled for. That's other than your terrible comment that you just made right there. I actually am doing pretty well. Listen, the Dallas Cowboys, as of today, sitting in the number 2 seed in the NFC because the Philadelphia Eagles took a lowly loss at home to the Arizona Cardinals. I have never been more of a Cardinals fan in my life, so I'm actually doing pretty well today, despite the fact also, by the way, that both, I would say, Bryson, I would say that you were kind of on the back burner of this, but especially my Yankees and the New York Mets got a little boned by Yoshinobu Yamamoto. But that could be, that's a different discussion.
That's a different discussion. It's over now. It's time has passed. We all got to move on. Obviously, everybody, our incredible audience is more than free to chime in the comment section. Happy New Year to everybody out there. My man Patrick Brown, a contributor here at the Gryd Network. What's good, fellas? Have a great time and Happy New Year to all. And Patrick also says, by the way, there you go, Mike. Cry Eagles cry, and they were crying indeed. We will get into the Philadelphia Eagles later on today's show. Barry, our guy Barry, has a few comments here. He says, let's go, boys. Devin needs some humble pie. So some shots already at one of our contestants. I don't want to hear anything from Mike Guido. I will expose him today. The man hailed the Eagles all season long. Well, we'll see what happens when we get to that segment later on today's show. Very, very excited about that. But let's get into our leaderboard before we get into our rules. The leaderboard right here. We've got 12. Obviously, Tim will be the 13th contestant in the 8 o'clock spot. But Mike Guido, the points leader, congratulations. Mike, still in front, just ahead of Barry Grant Jr., followed by Alfred Parslow Jr., John Rivera. There are Devin Nettles, Dalton Brown, Adam Bessie, Ryan Flowers, Anthony Bessie, who won last week, Dylan Lima, Alex Johnson, and Eric Van Letten there. And let's get into our first round rules right here. It's just as simple as this, ladies and gentlemen. A great take gives you 200 points. A good take gives you 100 points. An okay take gives you 50. And a bad take, you come home empty-handed, 0 points. Let's get into our first topic. A game that was watched by over 27 million people yesterday. Michigan, Alabama, 1-4. There's a reason everybody wanted this matchup. I guess I'm speaking for myself right now. Bama versus Michigan. It lived up to the billing, came down the wire. Alabama coming up short in overtime. Michigan pulling away with a big-time tying drive in regulation and the go-ahead drive in OT to win 27-20. So I will start with you, Devin. Considering all the noise and all the stuff around this Michigan program over the last few months, do you think this win over Alabama to get them to the national title game, has this essentially put to bed all of the narratives and the notions regarding their sign-stealing scandal?
No, not yet. Not yet. I'm gonna say that they gotta win the whole thing. Once they win the whole thing, I feel like that's gonna really quiet the noise. Because ask our guy Tim. Ain't that right, Tim? Ain't that how the Patriots really got their scandals?
Man.
Why? It was because
guns are blazing tonight.
Multiple championships, because we ain't never heard nothing else about none of the gates anymore when it comes to New England. So I just think that the Michigan Wolverines had put themselves in good position to actually put this stuff to rest, for the simple fact because they went through a lot throughout the whole regular season, whether, Coach Harbaugh being suspended, somebody else got to take over, the play calling, nobody really believed in Michigan, nobody really wanted Michigan to even really be in the playoff hunt, really. And then, here comes Alabama, where it's a team that everybody kind of scratched their head on like, dang, how did they get in over Georgia? And Alabama put up a good fight. And, and Michigan was able to overcome that good fight from Alabama, from a team that everybody kind of scratched their head on. So I just think that it's not put to bed, but it's getting laid down. They just got to put the covers on by winning the whole thing.
That's fair. And obviously, you will have people come out of the woodwork, so to speak, if Washington were to beat. We'll get into Washington later in this next segment. But if Washington beats them in the national title game, you'll have all the people coming out trolling Harbaugh, trolling Michigan. So that's I'm actually going to give you a great take there, Devin. That's a great take. So right now, there you go in first place, the full 200 points for you there, my man. Great take right there. To Tim, right now to Tim. And again, shots fired right at you right off the bat. Your first appearance on the Gryd Network show. And Devin is just coming right at you. So I will ask you, and listen, you were a fan of a team that was involved in their fair share of scandals. Do you think Michigan yesterday put the whole narrative and the notion to bed about the sign-stealing scandal by beating Alabama?
I think they 100% did. And here's the thing. Now, I don't believe this will ever stop talking, i.e. Devin still bringing up my Patriots with Deflategate, with Spygate, call it whatever you want. They still won. And if you all remember that the game after the Deflategate came out with Indianapolis, which, by the way, it was such a joke of a thing anyway because they destroyed Indianapolis. It wasn't even close. But they came out right after it and played in the Super Bowl and beat one of the greatest defenses I think the NFL has ever seen. So for Michigan, who is 0-2 in college football playoffs semis, it finally gets a statement win against a Nick Saban-led Alabama who, okay, yeah, sure, they lost to Texas, but had that crazy comeback against Auburn and pretty much dominated Georgia, especially on the line of scrimmage, where, again, I wasn't giving Bama enough credit. I thought they'd play well against Georgia, but I thought that Georgia would still find a way to win. So that's why, to me, I think that it should be put to bed, but ultimately, people hate Michigan like they hate New England. So it's going to be brought up year after year after year, no matter what, even if they do win the national championship. So because the Patriots won the Super Bowl and it still gets brought up.
It does. And obviously there was, even before this, there was a lot of vitriol towards Harbaugh. I've defended Jim Harbaugh for years. I think he's one of the 5 best football coaches, college and pro, in all sports. I think he's as good as they come. And obviously with the Ohio State, losing to Ohio State every year. So there was all that stuff coming in. So I think it's makes some fair points. So Tim, I'm going to give you right now a great take to tie you up there with Devin at the top. I think you're making some great points all around regarding, the ability. Again, and this is not the Alabama of old. I've said time and time again that this is the best job, in my view, that Nick Saban has ever done. Not to make this sound like Alabama's a bunch of underdogs and not that good, but certainly not as dominant as Bama teams in the past. So to be able to out-coach Nick Saban in certain respects, I thought was highly impressive by the Wolverines. Finally, to you, Mike Guido, did Michigan put to bed some of the narratives and the notions regarding their sign-stealing scandal by beating Bama last night?
I think it's interesting that the question is kind of phrased that way because I really think that there are multiple ways that you can look at this whole scandal thing. I mean, I'm not really sure how much there was there, to be honest, to begin with. Listen, it's where you really toe the line between what's cheating and what's scouting, right? I mean, if Michigan has a van parked outside and they're tapping into all the radio signals of everybody they play, I think that's different. That's cheating. But if there's a guy in the stands with his iPhone who's, taking video of the whole of the game, is that scouting or is that cheating? That's the first thing. So to answer your question, yeah, I think that this really needs to get put to bed. I'm really not into this whole sign stealing thing with Michigan to begin with. If you really had any doubt, I don't know that it took this game for it to happen. I thought it was once they beat Ohio State, I think that was kind of where you kind of drew the line of where this thing could have gotten put to bed. Listen, Michigan, they don't have to prove how good of a football team they are, right? This is one of the best defensive football teams in the entire country. I've never been a huge J.J. McCarthy guy, but he's been playing really good football this year. He's completing about 73% of his throws. And what you saw in yesterday's game as well was when it got late, they've still found productivity out of their run game. Blake Corum is one of the best in the country. So, yes, I think that this should be put to bed. Jim Harbaugh has done an amazing job since he's been there. It wouldn't shock me if he left Michigan altogether to go to the NFL next year. But again, we'll see what happens. But listen, I've said it from the beginning. I thought that Michigan was the best team in the country, and they didn't need sign stealing to do so.
I completely agree with you. I think you make a great point about J.J. McCarthy. Like my biggest concern from him is I wasn't sure if he was a dude that could play from behind. That last drive, in regulation, he was money. Made every throw, the fourth down conversion to keep that drive going. So obviously, like you said, and I agree, Michigan's defensive front is about as good as you could possibly ask for in college football. So Guido, I'm going to tie you up there at the top, and with Tim and with Devin with the great take there to continue dominating here everybody out of this first round. So everybody gets great takes. I tend to, Devin, lean more with Tim and with Mike here. I don't totally disagree with what you're saying. There's some fairness in what you brought up here, and that's why I did give you the great take, because you did bring up some great points. Okay, second round, all the point totals get doubled. A great take gives you 400 points. A good take gives you 200 points. An okay take gives you 100, and a bad take, again, 0 points right there. To the second college football playoff game, what was much more of a high-flying offensive type game, as we all kind of figured it would be, between the Washington Huskies and the Texas Longhorns. Washington barely pulling out there at the end. Michael Penix Jr., nothing short of remarkable in this football game against Texas. The defense that played relatively well over the last few weeks to get into the college football playoff. Penix finished second in the Heisman voting to Jaden Daniels, despite being probably the best quarterback in the Pac-12 this season, even with Caleb Williams included. And obviously, I think we all would agree Caleb is a sensational talent going to the NFL this year. So I will ask you, Tim, first, and who knows, maybe your team will have an opportunity to take this guy. Is Michael Penix Jr. the second best quarterback in this upcoming draft?
See, I took a kind of exception with that question because I thought he is the best quarterback in this draft. I think the fact that he's thrown for over 4,500 yards, he's thrown 35 touchdowns to 9 picks, and even last night, 29 of 38 for 430 and 2 touchdowns, no picks. I think if it wasn't for his injury past with the torn ACLs, there's no doubt in my mind he's better than Caleb Williams. He's better than Drake May. And that is where I would go. But unfortunately, with that injury history, if I was an NFL GM, I don't think I would take him number 1, number 2 overall, just due to that reason. But ultimately, with Caleb Williams, if you want to get into that, I don't like him because I don't think he's a proven winner. Not even a proven winner. I don't think he's a winner, period. Him crying in his mother's arms, talking about how he wants a stake in a team that gets him. It all is too ego, where Michael Penix, he's just a guy that just delivers. He delivered twice against Oregon. He delivered again last night with that high-flying Washington offense that they have, and has just been, I think, lighting up the college football world. If it wasn't, once again, if it wasn't for those knee injuries, I think he'd be the number 1 overall pick.
I'll tell you one thing about him that just absolutely blows me away is his pocket awareness might be the best I've ever seen from a college quarterback. It is absolute A+ stellar. Only thing I would disagree with you on Caleb is there's a lot of pushback from Caleb and his camp about the whole wanting to own a stake in a team. That hasn't been totally founded 100%, but I see where you're coming from. So Tim, I'm going to give you a good take right here to get you to 400 points and the lead right now. But good take. And again, I think Penix is the second best quarterback of the draft. This upcoming draft, we'll see what Mike and Devin think. But the best, I've got a buddy of mine that kind of repeats the same thing that you think. So listen, I think he's a phenomenal talent, and I think whoever drafts him, whether it's your Patriots or anybody else, will be very, very lucky. Moving on to Mike Guido, we were had a brief a Twitter sort of discussion about Michael Penix last night. Do you believe Michael Penix Jr., Mike, is the second best quarterback in this upcoming draft?
No, I think it's close, but no, I wouldn't put him at number 2. I still think that Caleb Williams and Drake May are both better. I think just where the NFL is moving right now, where you have quarterbacks that are really succeeding, that move, you know what I mean? Like Michael Penix, as good as he is with his arm talent, pocket awareness, all of that stuff. Listen, I've loved Michael Penix from the beginning. I liked him last year too. He's just, to me, he's just an exceptional thrower of the football. He really is not a very mobile quarterback at all. I mean, he's really only rushed for 32 yards this entire season. So there is something to be said about that. However, there really is value in guys that can just sit in the pocket and throw. And that's what Michael Penix is. Here's the issues that I'm having with him as far as a draft prospect. I'd still take him in the first round because I think he's that talented. Listen, I think Caleb Williams and Drake May, as far as arm talent, are both, like, I've seen Drake May make some throws this year that I just don't think anybody else in college football can make. Like, there's just some of these guys that are just insane. But Michael Penix, here's the two things I'm kind of questioning about him. The first thing is his age. He's 24 years old, right? He's coming into the NFL as kind of a developed product. How much better can Michael Penix get? That's, I think, the first question you have to ask. The other part of it is that there may not be a quarterback in college football that has a better pair of wide receivers than Washington does with Rome Odunze and Jalen Polk. So there's a real thing right there as far as those two guys. He has an excellent left tackle that might go in the first round as well, and Troy Fautanu. So there's a lot of surrounding pieces with Michael Penix. I love him, but I'd say right now he's clearly, to me, the third best quarterback in the class, but it's close.
In terms of your comparison stylistically, and even in terms of some of the minimal drawbacks you see with him, it sounded to me like you just described Joe Burrow coming out of LSU. He had the two great receivers. Like, I'm serious. Yeah. Not like mobile-ish. Burrow's more mobile than Penix is. I'd say Penix had a better arm than Burrow, but both had phenomenal top two receivers.
Burrow,
at LSU.
I think, was more accurate. Burrow's a more accurate thrower than Michael Penix is. But I get what you're saying. Plus, you have to keep in mind, too, I mean, where Joe Burrow came from, I still don't think that I've ever seen a college football team better than what 2019 LSU was. That 2019 LSU team was the best college football team I've ever seen.
Completely agree. That team is absolutely stacked. Beat a bunch of ranked teams badly that year. I completely agree with you. Yeah. Mike, I'm going to give you the great take here. I think your evaluation of Drake May and Caleb Williams was solid, as well as Michael Penix Jr. Bringing some context in terms of the receivers they've got there, and those are both. And again, I've been as big of a proponent as anybody that it's hard to win in today. I shouldn't say hard. It's hard to compete in today's NFL if you don't have a mobile quarterback. Like even Jared Goff, there are some limitations there if you get pressure on him. Maybe some of that's the case with Penix going to the draft. So I'm going to give you a great take, Mike Guido. Finally, to you, Devin Nettles. Is Michael Penix Jr. the second best quarterback in this upcoming draft?
As much as I got to agree with Mike, man, as much as we want to put Penix up there because we can see the talent around him. We can see that since he's been in college football, like his age, like Mike brung up, that being 24 and you've been in the college football, 5+ years, pretty much. I'm pretty sure your freshman year was like a red shirt, but after that, you've been in systems. So it shows that once you learn a system, he can develop and he can grow into that system and maybe be like that system quarterback. Everybody is now putting the labels on to these quarterbacks nowadays. The only reason why I think that he can put himself into the first round, but I don't think he's going to be a first round. He's a name that you can probably think about, like, can we take him? But then it's like, that injury. You know what I mean? Like Tim said. So it's just like he's everything that you were probably going to want, because like y'all was saying, like for Caleb Williams, he might be a diva. You know what I mean? He might comes in here, might try to cause some little rack, and then his personality might rub off on the coaches or the players wrong, and then nobody's really following them. So that might be his only downfall for him. But as far as Michael Penix Jr., he's not going to get first team reps as soon as he gets drafted by a team. He's going to have to be a guy that going to have to show that he knows the system, he can fight, he can learn, he can scrabble, he can stay healthy, because your best ability as in the NFL is your availability. And if he can show that his past injuries are in the past and he can stay healthy, then I think eventually 2 years from whenever he, once he get drafted, 2 years, he could potentially be looked at as a top, maybe a quarterback that he can take over a team. But as of right now, man, like I said, I believe he will be a late first rounder going to a second rounder, and he's just not quite the second best quarterback in there. You still got to give it to the other two guys, and Caleb Williams and Drake Mayotte.
That's interesting. It's fine. I would feel like pushing back on you saying he's gonna be a late first rounder, but you were the same guy during our draft show live in April that Will Levis was gonna fall to the second round, and you were spot on, right in the money on that one. So I got to give props where it's due there. Yeah, and it's the injury concern again, sort of similar. I've heard people compare him to Tua, basically like a bigger Tua with a better arm in certain respects, like in terms of stylistically, obviously them being both left-handed quarterbacks. So I think it makes some fair points. I'm gonna give you a good take as well here, Devin. Good take to tie you right there with Tim. Solid take to get you right there into that second place behind Guido. I think he makes some good points about Michael Penix Jr. Let's move on to our third round. This, because we got 3 contestants, it looks like we're going to have a couple more rounds before we get into the final winner take all round. It looks like we got a comment here real quick. Barry Grant Jr. says Penix is going to be in the same boat as Hendon Hooker. That's my guy. It's going to be where he goes, where everybody is wanting him. Yeah, and if he does fall to a late first round pick, like if he went to, were to fall to potentially my Pittsburgh Steelers, I would take him in a heartbeat. I think that'd be a great system for him potentially with all those great wide receivers there. So we'll see what happens in that regard.
Minnesota, coming up at the
What's
end.
That?
Look at Minnesota coming up to Kirk Cousins.
Sure.
They up on a late playoff push. So, in that late round, maybe Minnesota can take them.
Yeah, I think Michael Penix has been in higher regard earlier than Hendon Hooker was, but it's a solid point. The problem is, again, like I said, with Penix, is I think the injury concerns are real, and I think there's going to be a lot of evaluators that are going to say, listen, he's 24 years old. I mean, we can't really sit him, right? He's a grown man, right? How much more is he going to develop? But to me, as of today, I think he's a first-round quarterback, no question.
Well, don't forget, too, that Hendon Hooker had a season-ending injury and went to the draft. Like, Michael Penix is still playing. So I think we're talking Hendon Hooker, that's like a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. And stylistically, they're different as well. All right, let's move on to the third round real quick. Again, everything gets doubled from the second round. A great take gives you 800 points. A good take gives you 400. An okay take gives you 200 points. And a bad take, again, 0 points. Let's transition now to your team, Devin, the Baltimore Ravens, who clinched the number 1 seed in the AFC, led by Lamar Jackson, who had not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 touchdowns on the day. The third game of his career, I saw the stats today, blew my mind. The third game of Lamar's career where he had more touchdowns than incompletions. He was absolute money, a perfect pass rating in this game against a Dolphins defense that since Jalen Ramsey came back has actually been playing pretty darn well. The Ravens clinching the number 1 seed in the AFC and playing absolutely unbelievable football. So listen, we'll see what they're able to do in the playoffs. Again, they play the Steelers this week, but I'll ask you this question, Mike Guido. Is anything short of a Super Bowl title a failure for the Baltimore Ravens?
I think at this point, probably, yeah. I think so. Here's the thing. I think Baltimore at this point, I don't know that you can make the argument that they're not the best team in the league. I mean, the only other team that I think could combat them is San Francisco, and they knocked the doors off of San Francisco in their own building. So I just don't know that you can say anything other than Baltimore being the best team in the league. And this is, again, with an injured Kyle Hamilton. This is with an injured Mark Andrews, and they're still able to do all of this stuff. Listen, what we've said about Lamar Jackson all year is not wavering. And Devin probably knows this better than anybody. The fact that Lamar Jackson's efficiency numbers are up, right? He's completing a higher percentage of his throws. He's wasting less possessions. It's making all the difference in the world for this Baltimore offense. This is still an offense that can pound the rock, right? They still run the football incredibly well, but now they have playmakers that can make plays in open space. It's unlike a Baltimore team that we've seen in recent years where they needed Lamar Jackson to do everything. And I just don't think that that's the place that they're in right now. Listen, they blew out San Francisco. They blew out Miami. They blew out Detroit early in the year. Like, these are good football teams. They blew out the Browns. Like, these are good football teams, and Baltimore is knocking their doors off. So, yeah, Dev, I think the pressure's there, bro. It's Super Bowl or bust for you guys, I think.
I completely I agree with you in many respects. And also, too, I've said all season long, and I still maintain this, I do think the Niners had the best roster in the league. But think about the Niners, but you put Lamar Jackson on them. That's essentially what the Baltimore Ravens are right now. By the way, with a better offensive line than the 49ers have as well, because that's kind of the one weakness in San Francisco. Baltimore's offensive line is excellent. We know John Harbaugh's history in the playoffs, winning a Super Bowl, and Lamar Jackson. I think we would all, again, I didn't even pose the question, is Lamar the MVP? That's out of the question. We're not even debating that going to Week 18. I think it's Lamar, and it's not particularly close. I'm going to give you a great take here once again, Mike Guido, to get you to 1,400 points in terms of the Ravens roster and what Lamar's been able to do from an efficiency standpoint. I think you make some great points all the way around. All right, to our Ravens fan in the building, and I'm going to try and survive this as a Steelers fan. Here we go. Devin, is this a Super Bowl title or bust season year for the Baltimore Ravens?
After everything that Mike just laid out, beating the Lions, nobody gave us really the chance to beat them. Beating the Seahawks, they gave us a slim chance to beat the Seahawks. Beating the 49ers, we already know how Mike Flair already see how he felt about us. Winning and beat the Dolphins. And it's just not like close games. These are games that we are blowing teams away. We are shutting teams out in the second half. The defense is not allowing you to score 20 points. It's like, what more? We have to win a Super Bowl. At first, it was just get out the divisional round, because that's all Lamar really had to do to really start making his name more noticeable and as an elite status quarterback, is just to get the hell out of the divisional round. But now, after pretty much going undefeated since week 8, 9?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, now you got to keep the train rolling, because you got to sit here and think, after all that stuff, like Mike Guido said, without Mark Andrews, we are 8-0 without Mark Andrews all time. And primetime football, we are 37-14. When it comes to Lamar versus NFC teams, he is 20-1. When it comes to Sunday, it doesn't matter where you put us at. You can put us in London. You can put us in California. You can put us in Florida. You can put us back home at the bank. It doesn't matter where you putting us right now. It seems like we are geared up to say that we are set for primetime football, which is the biggest stage, is Super Bowl Sunday. So, yes, it has to be Super Bowl or nothing when it comes to here in Flock Town.
And Baltimore's game is one that travels very well. I saw this this little list today, and it's unbelievable how great they are on both sides of the ball. I'll try and get through this relatively quickly. But Baltimore ranks second in points per game this season, fourth in yards per game, first in rush yards per game offensively. Defensively, they're for their best scoring defense in football. They're fourth in opponent yards per game, first in sacks, second in opponent touchdown to interception ratio, and second in opponent pass rating. So in other words, they're dominant on offense, dominant on defense. And we know this doesn't need to be said, but they have the greatest kicker, certainly of this generation, maybe of all time.
Quick question. Did anybody remember who was Georgia quarterback last year?
Stetson Bennett. Yep.
You want to know why? Y'all remember him? Because of Todd Monken.
That's a fact. And that's made a massive difference. We were talking about that before the show. It's made a massive difference for this Ravens team. Devin, you're preaching. You're 100% right. Great take. 1,200 points. Giving the 800, I get you up to 1,200 points going to the fourth and final round. Tim Barnard, I'm going to ask you finally, is this a Super Bowl title or bust season for the Baltimore Ravens?
Well, after what these two guys just talked about, I mean, I couldn't agree more because of just everything that happened. They've beaten the top teams, Detroit, San Fran, and even the domination of Miami. But I just want to take a flashback to 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Devin, do you remember what happened in 2019?
Couldn't get out the divisional round against the Tennessee Titans.
Couldn't get out of the divisional round. But what did Lamar do? He won the MVP. He was a first-team AP All-Pro. And the Baltimore Ravens were 2-2 entering Week 5 and proceeded to rattle off 12 straight, looking like a dominant Ravens team that was going to go all the way. Now, again, I know it's 2023. It's a different time. It's a different team. But, it's everything seems to be gearing up the same way, with Lamar at this point being a unanimous MVP candidate. Maybe Christian McCaffrey might steal a couple points, but Lamar's playing well. The team is playing well, 8-0 without Mark Andrews. I'm just getting all these feelings like 2019 is going to repeat itself. Now, whether you win in the divisional round or the wild card round, I think that's fine. But if you can't make the AFC Championship game, then it's 2019 all over again. That's just.
So you're saying they'll go out in the AFC title game?
I'm saying that, it's a Super Bowl or bust. And that right now, with the way this team has been playing and Lamar playing as well as he have, 2019 is kind of kicking in for me, kind of, remembering all those bad habits. And if, I think that, I think that there could be a possibility the Ravens could just fall flat on their face and not even make the AFC Championship game.
You want to know what's the two different things from 2019? Mike McDaniel and Todd Monken. It's no more Dane Pease, no more Wink. It's no more Greg Roman. You know what I mean? All the guys who like the blitz on 3rd and 17 instead of trying to play the sticks. You rather go ahead and send a zero blitz. You rather go ahead and run the ball and not open up the playbook for Lamar. So those are the two different things that we have going this year.
I don't disagree, but Lamar had similar numbers, and he, that's the thing. Lamar was playing exceedingly well in 2019, and hence him winning the MVP. Good for you. You won the MVP, but at the end of the day, you got to perform in the playoffs. That's really where it matters.
I 100% agree, and I think that you. Yes, the numbers are somewhat comparable. Actually, Lamar had way more touchdown passes his first MVP year than what's now going to be a second MVP year. I think he's a significantly better player now than he was then. He's a much better thrower from the pocket. I think Pro Football Focus has him as like the number one thrower outside the pocket this season. So he's been excellent, doing that. I'm going to give you a good take here. Tim, 800 points, get 800 points here going to the final round. Looks like we've got some comments real quick. They're from Barry Grett Jr. He says, I'm not shocked the Ravens were my original Super Bowl pick. He says Lamar does need to prove himself postseason wise. I think we would all agree with that. Oh, wow. He says he may be the Russell Westbrook of the NFL. I completely reject that notion. That's wild, Barry Grant Jr. And before y'all get on me, I wasn't a Westbrook guy from the jump. So I'm just going to put that out there. That's crazy. Okay. I will say this though, that there'll be a lot of pushback if Lamar goes down in round 2 again. It's going to be rough, but that's the name of the game. It's the expectations.
If you go down divisional round, it's going to be ugly.
Mm-hmm. It could be ugly. We know how loaded the AFC is this year. Could potentially face Cleveland. Who knows? All right, so to the 4th round right now. Again, our last segments, our last round with these 3 contestants. Again, everything gets double. A great take gives you 1,600 points. A good take gives you 800. An okay take gives you 400. And a bad take, you come home empty-handed with 0 points. Transitioning now to America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, who barely escaped the Detroit Lions 20-19 on a controversial 2-point conversion. We won't get into that a ton today. But Dallas winning against Detroit, again, beating a good team at this point in the season. Huge for them. They go to 8-0 at home. And due to help from the Philadelphia Eagles, who we'll discuss in the final round with the top 2 point getters, they are now in position with a win over the measly 4-win Commanders to clinch the number 2 seed and essentially guarantee that they will not play a road game until, worst case scenario, the NFC title game. So I will start with you, Devin. Does the Cowboys potentially getting the 2 seed make any sort of major difference in their ability to win the NFC?
Nah, not really, in my opinion. I feel like the Cowboys are almost in the same predicament of how we just talked about Lamar. Once you just have to win these games. You know what I mean? The Cowboys is dealing with a lot of injuries. You know what I mean? Far as look as Diggs was a big major part of of that defense, and then Gilmore's in and out. He's trying his best to hold on as best as he can. It looks like teams are starting to pick on the top interception getter, the pick six go getter guy, Bland. They starting to pick on him a lot now. So the Cowboys going to have to find a way to, number one, have Parsons going to have to lead that pack. He's going to have to find a way to lead that pack. I think that team will go as far as Michael Parsons. It's no longer rest on Dak Prescott no more. We just seen that Dak Prescott is be able to put himself into MVP conversations. He put himself into winning situations. We can see that Dak can put the throws. He didn't hit the throws 2 times in 2 games coming down the end of the stretch to have the Cowboys let up in a good position. It just when they switch the ball over to that defense, it's like, where's Parsons? And I'm starting to think in my eyes, Mike Guido can probably elaborate more. I think Parsons is going to have to be what you have in Pittsburgh, Bryce, TJ Watt. He's going to have to take over a game somehow, some way, whether it's going to you forcing a turnover, you causing havoc, putting quarterback pressure, or him getting sacks. I think now it doesn't just rely on that. I think it really relies on Michael Parsons. And if Parsons doesn't show up and that defense doesn't really show up, the Cowboys can get an early.
7.
I can see the Cowboys getting an early exit this year. So I don't think it's about the seeding for them. I just think about it's going to have to be what Michael Parsons and that defense can do.
Yeah, no question about it. And obviously Micah has at least he's built somewhat of a mini reputation through the first 3 years of getting out to hot starts and then kind of tailing off at the end of seasons. I don't know if that's wear and tear, if it's injuries, fatigue. I'm not sure what's factoring in those decisions, but it simply does not happen with some of the best pass rushers. You mentioned TJ Watt, Myles Garrett is a good example. The other guys we can mention in conversations like that. That's a major concern. Obviously, listen, the defense, I thought by and large played pretty darn well given how good Detroit's offense is, especially indoors on turf. That's where they specialize. And Detroit's defense was good. I'm going to give you a good take, Devin, to get you to 2,000 points here and put yourself in position maybe to make the final round once again, to maybe be Mr. Runner-Up. We'll see if you yourself can get rid of that narrative for yourself, similar to how Michigan is trying to in the college football. But a good take there by Devin. Moving on to Tim. Do you think the Cowboys, Tim, if they win against Washington, get the 2 seed, do you think that'll heavily impact their opportunity to win the NFC?
I absolutely think it does. I think that with all 5 of their losses coming on the road, coming to the aforementioned Arizona Cardinals, as we talked about on the off air, especially since they beat Philly, they lost in San Francisco, got killed by them. They got killed by the Bills in Buffalo, and then lost a tight one to the Dolphins, but offensively did enough. The only thing that I want to push back on with Devin is talking about the defense, right? Talking about the Cowboys defense, are they falling off? Are they not as good? Well, they're 8th in total defense, 5th in passing defense, and 5th in scoring defense. So if they're falling off, they're still playing at an elite level. Micah Parsons might not be getting the stats, but he's definitely impacting the game. And whether you want to say that they should have lost to Detroit with that whole 2-point debacle, that's neither here nor there. I think at the end of the day, if Dallas is able to stay home up until the NFC Championship game, I think right now with the way they're playing and how comfortable they feel in their home stadium, it's almost like the Dolphins in Miami. The Dolphins need to be in Miami in order to go far in the playoffs. So I think the Dallas Cowboys are the exact same way. They need to be home. And with the defense, as long as they're playing hot, Stephon Gilmore has filled in for Trayvon Diggs, I think, pretty well this season. So at the end of the day, I'm not worried about their defense. I know Trayvon Diggs was a big part of it, but defensively, they're lockstep. They haven't missed a beat since he's been gone.
Yeah, and he's obviously, Trayvon has been a great player for them, and Deron Bland has stepped into that number 2 role better. And Devin sort of alludes to the fact that they've kind of went at Bland. He could be a little bit of a gambler to a certain degree in terms of jumping routes from time to time. And again, I think that's, Dallas's defense, again, like I said, against Detroit, and that's something too. Dallas's defense and their offense as well, but especially their defense is kind of like Detroit's offense, where because they're young, quick, and fast, they play much better on turf than, say, on grass in San Francisco or on grass at Philadelphia. or other destinations like that. So I thought it was all around great take. Tim, you are officially in the lead right now, my man. Shoot, 2,400 points, going to give you a great take to put you in a pretty good position to make the final round. To Mike Guido, a Cowboys fan in the building, does the Cowboys getting the 2 seed heavily impact their opportunity to win the NFC?
Absolutely. I think it does. Now, here's the thing. I've held San Francisco in a ridiculously high regard all season long, and I'm not sure that anybody in the NFC can beat them. But if the question is phrased, does it heighten their chances? It absolutely does, because of what Tim just pointed out, right? This is a different football team at home. The Dallas Cowboys are one of the best teams in the NFL at home, and a very average to below average football team on the road. I'm not sure they win a playoff game if they don't win the division. Like that's how lowly confident I am in where the Dallas Cowboys are. Now, here's the thing. I think that what Devin said is valid to a point where you just say, well, listen, Micah Parsons is not racking up any sacks or anything like he's not, he's not becoming TJ Watt. But what Tim said is exactly right. The fact that this Dallas defense, even when Micah Parsons is double teamed and, might I say, held on every play, I mean, they're still finding ways to get after the quarterback. DeMarcus Lawrence looks like he's 25 again. Dorrance Armstrong has been fantastic. The thing that I worry about most about this Dallas defense is if they can consistently defend the run, right? Like that's really their thing. Jonathan Hankins being injured on the interior defensive line has really hurt, because what you're seeing right now out of their big guys in the middle, Osa Odigizua is not really a run stopper. He's a pass rusher, right? He's an interior pass rusher. That's what he does. Guys like Neville Gallimore, Mozzie Smith, guys like that, they're not among those guys that can be elite run-stopping big interior linemen yet. So I'm to the point now where, listen, if they can get multiple playoff games, just like Tim said, they can get multiple playoff games in Dallas, you're allowed, and they can get out to an early lead, right? Because that's another factor. Then I think it changes the entire ball game. And then, listen, when the NFC Championship game rolls around, most likely in San Francisco, then yes, listen. And even if San Francisco
10
drops,
seconds left, Mike.
then who has home field? It's Dallas. So I think it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, and you could obviously listen. We'll get into Philadelphia in this last segment. Obviously, I simply don't think they can beat San Francisco as bad as that defense is. But in the event that they were to beat Tampa Bay and then beat San Francisco, all of a sudden you have Dallas at home against Philadelphia, and we saw the last time they faced in Big D, it was Dallas from start to finish. Literally, there was a wire-to-wire win. So I think it made some great points all the way around the board. So Mike Guido, my friend, you are moving on to the final round. If I could pull up the point total here, 3,000 points. So in the final round, I'm sorry, my man Devin. You may have gotten the number 1 seed, but you are not advancing to the final round. Mike Guido and Tim Barnard are advancing to the final round of the 8 o'clock spot. I'm sorry to say. Devin, your reaction. You're muted. Your mic's muted.
I'm just getting back into the seat. I'm just getting warmed up. So that's cool. I'll be back again.
You know who you are? You're Mr. in the hole at this point. You're finishing third. You've gone from Mr. Runner-up to like the bronze medal now at this point.
Don't do that to the poor man. That's me.
That's cool. Now I got to make a sign to call me Mr. Bronze.
That's great. And by the way, we're beating you guys on Saturday. I'm just telling you right now. It looks like we're real quick. By the way, great job, Devin. Great takes all night long. We'll see you there at the end of the show. So we got Tim, we got Mike here, and we got a comment real quick by Barry Grant Jr. He says, I believe hamburgers, bar fights, and Jerry Jones, Dallas Cowboys, they are America, or they're all America. Yeah,
you don't even need to pretend to do the accent, Bryson. You're Southern enough to just pull
I'm
that
Southern enough. I just need to emphasize it even more than I already did. Listen, if I'm capable of doing it, I'm going to do it. I can do a killer Jerry Jones impersonation. I'm just telling you right now. All right, let's move on to our final round rules. And this is a winner take all. This is the great equalizer of this 8 o'clock spot tournament. If you're down in the standings, this is an opportunity to really get yourself back in the mix. The winner, simply put, gets 10 1,000 points if you win this round. The loser, you come home empty-handed with 0 points, and you are the new official Mr. Runner-Up. Let's just call it like it is. All right, moving on to the Philadelphia Eagles, who, as we mentioned with the Cowboys segment, suffered a devastating loss to the Arizona Cardinals at home. Might I add, by the way, I called that on my show on Friday. We'll move on from that, though. But Arizona running for over 200 yards against this very bad Eagles defense. I want to emphasize that as much as I can. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense, kind of an uneven day, not able to capitalize at times in the fourth quarter. And obviously, Jalen threw the interception, that Hail Mary. But all in all, this Eagles team losing 4 of 5. Right now, they are the 5 seed and would likely go to Tampa Bay in that first round of the postseason. If they were to win that, they get the gift of getting to go to San Francisco off of 2 weeks rest. So I'll start with you, Tim. Are the Philadelphia Eagles donezo as contenders in the NFC?
I think they are. I mean, at least for this season, they're too talented to be done for contenders in the future. I think Jalen Hurts is just having a really down year. And it all started when they played my Pats in week 1. You know, like there was something about that game, watching it, where they didn't look right. Offensively, they couldn't move the ball. And yes, I know New England has a very good defense, statistically, which they always do, but it didn't matter. To me, that doesn't matter. The teams are just two completely different teams. And so with them looking – not 100% in week 1, to them just continuing it. Jalen Hurts not being the same dude he was last year that carried that team all the way to a Super Bowl. And not to mention, too, they lost a lot of key defensive players. I mean, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, T.J. Edwards, Marcus Epps, Kaiser White, just all in free agency. And now that defense was dominant last season. Now they're 23rd in total defense, 28th in pass, and do rank 11th in the rush defense, but still 28th in pass, 23rd overall total defense. I mean, this team is done. There's no way that they're going to be able to carry it into the playoffs, let alone make a deep run. The brotherly shove, you want to call it, can only carry them so far, right? So at the end of the day, this season, I think they'd be lucky to make the divisional round.
Listen, I know, excuse me, I know Tampa Bay played poorly on Sunday, but I honest to God, I think Tampa Bay can beat this team in the first round. The way that Baker's playing with Mike Evans and all those weapons, and Tampa Bay's defense, we know they got some playmakers on that side. Mike Guido, are the Eagles done as contenders in the NFC?
Yeah, I think I'm finally coming around to it. Yeah, listen, I gave the Eagles a ton of credit. I mean, you know this, Bryson, earlier on in the season, because Tim's right. They never really looked right. This was not the team that we saw last year where they just looked like a juggernaut, like they just could not be stopped. This was not that football team. And I always gave them credit for winning ugly, right? I think I used that exact term. They won ugly because, listen, a win's a win. If you can find ways, even on your not best day, to win games, then that's a good sign going forward. This is a team that cannot stop a nosebleed, right? Tim brought up a lot of those stats before. They're 29th in scoring defense. I'll just throw a couple more at you. They're 30th in the NFL in third down percentage. They just can't stop anybody. Like, listen, if you have guys like Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter in the middle of your defensive line, you better be able to defend the run, right? So I don't doubt that they can defend the run, but this is a team right now that is not running the football the way that they have, the way they want to the past few weeks. Jalen Hurts is turning the ball over, which wasn't an issue that they had last year. So this is just a team that I think is struggling. They're playing sloppy football. They've really played a lot of sloppy football most of the year. And one of the big, I think, real contributions to that is that recently the Eagles were at their best when A.J. Brown was on his absolute tear. Since the last few weeks, I mean, he disappears in games. So right now, I think I'm with Tim here. I don't think that the Eagles can. I'm not even confident that, I'm not really confident in their ability to beat the Giants this week. I think they could, but I think that this is kind of a, pick your poison kind of game. And like I said, if they have to go into Tampa, that's a tougher game than I think most people could expect. So yeah, I think I'm out on the Eagles at this point.
Yeah, and obviously you bring up a great point about the Giants. I mean, the Giants benched their quarterback we're dealing with all these injuries, and they still almost beat Philadelphia in Philadelphia with extra rest for the Eagles. Like it was kind of a rough go at the office for Philadelphia. There's no question about that. You guys did not make it easy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I thought y'all had great takes across the board. I do agree with both of you in many respects. But of course, this is the 8 o'clock spot. This is a game show. There can only be one winner, and the winner of the 8 o'clock spot between Tim and Mike is our points leader. Mike Guido is the champion of the 8 o'clock spot here on the Gryd Network. Congratulations, Mike, for getting yet another W. Oh, the crown now. He's bringing out the crown. Congratulations, Mike. Your reaction.
Thank you, Bryson. I appreciate it. So, Tim, I'm sorry. I know it's your first day. I know it's, the first 8 o'clock spot, but I had to do it to you. I'm sorry. The vet just needed to teach you a lesson, and that's all. That's all we needed to do. But listen, man, it's great to be back on top once again. I took a couple-week hiatus. Had some things going on in the personal life. I had a busy holiday season, but like I said, I think that we do things differently here at Guido Station. So it feels real nice, Bryson Carver.
I'm starting at Guido Station. I'm starting to rethink.
Oh, and by the way, it does really feel good. I will throw this out there as a jab at both of you. It does really feel good that the New York guy is kind of, I'm the winner out of the room full of Red Sox fans. It feels really great. It really does.
Hey, Tim, do we have to tell him about 04 in 2018? Do we have to do that?
I mean, we could.
Just
it's
not
like you blew a 3-0 series lead. I mean,
love it.
Well, when that took place, I was 8 years old, Tim. So I don't really remember that all that well. It didn't hurt me all that much.
It's very convenient there, Mike. That's very bringing Devin back in the mix. Devin, I always ask the person who gets eliminated. Devin, your thoughts? Did I make the right decision?
Yeah, man. We can't let the new guy come in here try to
So what you're saying is I did give a better take. Okay, I got you. Thank you.
I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. I was just sitting there, was like, oh, man, Mike, you win for your money, my guy. He came out, was like, he trying to get his first win, but no, a good show, though, fellas, man. I felt like Bryson. I wouldn't know who to choose on that one, but I think Bryson made the great choice.
Well, listen, that's why I've been appointed to make such decisions with great power.
By the way, Dev, you out on the Eagles?
Most definitely. I've been
4-0 sweep. I love it.
I've been out on the Eagles weeks ago, man. When they were just barely winning games, I was like, I don't know, something different. And you know what it is? The same reason why the Ravens' success. Offensive, defensive coordinators. You lost two of your guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Last year championship team. So, that can make a big difference.
And how
bye Shane Steichen.
Yep.
I was about to say, and how poetic is it that one of their former coordinators, who some fans wanted kicked out the door, was the guy who basically screwed up their season. So that just makes it all the better. Okay, cry Eagles, cry. Get out of here, Philadelphia. We're all here at the Gryd Network. We love it. That is all the time we have for this week's edition of the 8 o'clock spot. Be sure to catch us next week at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time, right here on the Gryd Network's YouTube channel and Twitter account. Great stuff. Welcome to the Gryd Network, Tim. Great performance today. Congratulations to Mike Guido and Mr. Bronze, Devin Nettles. Congratulations. Listen, you're Ravens. No. Get that out of here. Get that out of here. Go Steelers.
Number 1 seed. We the Kings of the North. Must I keep going?
Okay, we'll see what happens on Saturday. Y'all backups ain't beating our starters. I'm telling you right now.
Hey,
Mason Rudolph.
If our backups beat your starters, Bryce, you have to come away and give out a big trust.
Deal. I feel that confident. Deal. Okay, you're on, Mr. Nettles, and you have to wave it. You only have to wave a terrible towel. Just wave some sort of towel on the show. We got a deal?
I can do that.
Let's do it. All right. Next week, we'll see what happens. The 8 o'clock spot. Be sure to tune in once again at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. See y'all then. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out.